Hi, and welcome back to the File News Show, the weekly show that covers the best artist, creator, and tech news. We're broadcasting at a weird time today, but we'll be back to our normal time, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific time next week. Today on the show, we are feeling the love because we got Valentine's Day coming up. So we will be going over a few things, one of them being Tommy Siegel's Candy Hearts comics. We'll be going over Muesli's 30 awesome free fonts. And we'll also check out a service that helps you not plagiarize. We'll also pour one out for the New York Police Department's RoboCop, which we'll get back into that in just a little bit. But first up, I do want to remind everyone that you can get these episodes through your favorite podcast app. Just go on to wherever you listen to podcasts and search for The File News Show, and you'll have episodes delivered straight to your podcasting app of choice. And as for the live stream, hello to everyone that is over on YouTube and to everyone that is on Behance. Hello to Bilal and Allison Rogers and Cody. Thank you for being here, as well as Rick and Kendall, Umacorn, Carol, Sean, Shweta. Thank you guys very much for being here. If you have questions and comments as we are getting through things, by all means, please throw them in the chat. I would love to get them part of the show and have this more of a back and forth rather than me just kind of talking right at you. That said, let's go ahead and hop right into our first segment, which is always the news. So the very first thing that we have here is the Mozilla launched a new subscription called Mozilla Monitor. And we all know that companies love to sell your data. That's how they pretty much have set up a lot of their profit margins. And that's why every site now asks you about cookies whenever you get onto a site. And that is a legal approach to it, to have consent and not consent. But through legal and illegal means, your physical address, your phone number, your email, they're probably all on sale somewhere online. And in fact, the government agencies of America, this is not conspiracy, this is true, are actually buying it and using it without obtaining warrants because it's an open marketplace. Now, whether you are worried about governments or you're worried about maybe someone who's a little bit more of a stalker towards you, or maybe you just don't want that information online, there is now Mozilla Monitor, which was originally Firefox Monitor, but they recently rebranded it to Mozilla Monitor. And I actually recently just used this week because I wanted to get a bunch of my stuff off. And it removes your personal information from data broker sites automatically, and they also take the steps to do the ones that require manual labor. So you sign up, you put in your information, they say we found it here, 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 and here, and then they will then actively, continuously take things off and put in the request to have them taken off. It's said to design to streamline the complex opt-out process, and Monitor Plus proactively searches 190 data broker sites to initiate removal requests on behalf of users. It is $13.99 a month, and that's for continuous scanning and automatic removal, but you can also just go on and use it once. They'll remove it, and then if you want to cancel and you can come back, you also can freely do that as well, which personally is what I did. I'll probably do it again in a few months, but that's just kind of my approach to it. In exciting news, to the party you forgot about. That's right. Blue Sky opened its doors to the public this week. It is the open source decentralized social platform that was originally private and invite only last year, but now anyone can join. I actually joined it a few months ago, and I never posted onto it. It was a little confusing because it was so tiny. It was very walled garden. It was very of its own kind of nature, and they didn't have moderation policies down. They weren't figuring things out. But they have since grown and evolved a lot, and they've added a lot of new features. And I think that it's actually a really good Twitter alternative, at least in my experience so far. I've been using the last few days and I've been really getting into it. Kendall is saying I should log back into my Blue Sky. I forgot about it, as I feel like many people did. But the really cool thing about this service that I really want to advertise, because I don't feel like it is necessarily well articulated a lot of times, but one of their biggest features outside of all the stuff that you would expect from Twitter is that they have this feature, since it's open sourced and anyone can adjust and view the code. you can build on top of the code and build your own feeds. And I feel like as artists, as just humans, honestly, we have this constant battle with algorithms. And this is the first social network that I know of that is taking that and saying, okay, fine, like do what you want with it. So you can create your own feeds. You can also subscribe to other feeds. And these aren't just curated collections of predetermined posts. It actually works with users' individual algorithms and followers and the way that they interact with the site. So for example, I'm subscribed to a few feeds that do the following. One, there's one that only shows posts from people I follow who don't post very regularly. It's called like quiet posters. And basically, if you haven't posted in a long time and you post, then it will be added to this feed that when I go onto the homepage and I click into this feed, it will show me only the people that I follow but don't post very regularly. There's also one that only shows me posts from people I follow and they follow me back, so all my mutuals. There are ones that are posts that are popular with friends. There are the most popular posts from the last 24 hours from the whole site. You can even go down into niche specific interests like books, food, or movies that have a set group of people, but they also scan beyond just like a singular hashtag, which I think is really cool. They actually don't have hashtags yet. They are working on it. There's a few things they're working on. They're also working on federation, which is what also Threads and Mastodon are doing. But it is really interesting to see because I know that eventually you'll be able to view your Threads content and your Mastodon content in Blue Sky and vice versa. And it's going to come down to using the service that works best for you. And I'm just really excited because this service is offering that service for your algorithm, which is one of my biggest complaints about social networks all the time. And I'm not a coder, but it's nice to know that hypothetically, if I get fed up enough, I can just go in and I can build out my own thing. But what do you guys think? Do you guys, I saw a few chat about Blue Sky. I know that a lot of people have forgotten about it and they want to get back in. Is anyone using a particular version of a Twitter alternative or an X alternative? I'd love to hear why you choose what you're using and what your kind of ideas are. And Kendall's in the chat saying Mastodon is too confusing, which, yes, I kind of ran into the issue as well with that. But it's all new internet, so we'll figure it out. Next up, in interesting related kind of Twitter news, X news, X became the most downloaded app on iOS a few times this week after the perfect eclipse happened. And it was Tucker Carlson interviewing Vladimir Putin and an inappropriate leaked video of naked Drake making its way online. And think what you will about Elon, hate him or love him, but you can't argue that the service has seen a decline in users and downloads over the last year since he acquired the service. However, the company has been swift to deflect tangential scrutiny because they're a private company. They don't have to release numbers. They don't have to put things out there because it's privately owned at this point. This last week, though, the App Store downloads tell a spike in usage because it was #1 across the platform. So it's interesting to see that when these things happen and people want to see real news, they are downloading X. But I'm also wondering how that's going to interact with the idea of Mastodon and Blue Sky and Threads. But where do you guys get your news from? Do you guys still use X for that reason? Have you not logged on to X? I haven't used X a lot recently. And it's because of so many things. But I'm really looking for that source of news. But I do realize that when I do need to find something and I think it will be moderated or censored on other sites, I do tend to go to X because I'm like, they don't monitor anything, which is better and for worse, honestly. But I think that it's how it is. Yes, Oliver saying, is X actually real news anymore, though? Yeah, I mean, to that point, too, there's a lot of misinformation, and we'll be talking also about misinformation with AI later in the episode as well. Speaking of which, actually, Meta platforms will start labeling AI-generated images from other companies' services with invisible markers. So this isn't just the things that you make within Meta. You also are getting labeled content if it's coming from other places. Labels will be applied across Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. No mention of WhatsApp, even though it is owned by Meta. And it plans to extend this to OpenAI, Microsoft, Adobe, Midjourney, Shutterstock, and Alphabet's Google. Nick Clegg, Meta's president of global affairs, mentioned that labeling for audio and video AI content is more complex and they're still working on it. So this is only applicable to images. They did mention that text is long gone. They won't be able to actually do that anymore. But the image in particular is one that they will be able to hypothetically identify. I am interested to see how well it works. I have seen a lot of failed AI detectors out there. But the fact that they're announcing it and they're starting to roll it out makes me think that maybe that is something that is actually viable and working. They'll also require users to label altered audio and video in the meantime, and there are unspecified penalties for non-compliance. So if you are purposely putting out misinformation and you're not labeling it, I don't know what Meta is going to do, but that is something that they're keeping an eye on, and they're saying you better watch it. Also, back on YouTube chat, Allison Rogers is saying, I hate that Threads connect with Instagram. I'm wondering if you are more upset over the fact that it's attached to your account that's on Instagram, or are you more upset that when you are scrolling down Instagram, you randomly run into Threads and it's always like, be on Threads, be on Threads. More so, even with me, it's frustrating when I go to share a post and I want to put it to my story. It always is like, no, you want to share it to Threads first. I'm like, no, I want to put this on my story. I digress, though. Also in AI news, the Department of the Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo announced that the U.S. AI Safety Institute Consortium on Thursday was going into effect. And this includes companies like Adobe, Apple, Amazon, Intel, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta. I mean, like all the big players here. And she said the U.S. government has a significant role to play in the setting the standards and developing the tools we need to mitigate the risk and harness the immense potential of artificial intelligence. They will develop guidelines for red teaming, capability evaluations, risk management, safety, and security, and watermarking synthetic content. So it is kind of nice to know that there is at least emphasis and an attention to artificial intelligence, and these big companies are also saying, yes, we understand that it's a thing. I will be interested to see how they continue to go forward and if everyone tends to actually align and work things out. Also, hello to Ryan Toon in YouTube. Thank you for being here. Say hi. Also, thank you for the nice words over on Behance. Joshua, I'm glad that I can deliver the news that really matters to you. Speaking of which, something that matters so important is that we need to pour one out for the Subway bot. If you didn't know this, this is the Subway bot that was implemented just 7 months ago. And Mayor Eric Adams for New York City introduced it and said that it was really good because it didn't take lunch breaks and it didn't take bathroom breaks. But it was, I think, $12,500 for 7 months. The first 3 months of which it wasn't actually even running. It was just getting ready to patrol. And then the last 4 months, they could go and they could try it out. So all in all, it was a 7-month trial period, but it honestly was more like a 4-month. And it was on rent from a company called Nightscope, which is a Californian-based company. And the problem with it is that it couldn't traverse stairs. So it was, if you've ever been on the New York subway before, it is very stair-heavy, not very disability-friendly. And so it was kind of sequestered to these city blocks that had subway stations that didn't have many stairs. But it could record video, and it had a button to contact the New York Police Department. There's no information to say if anyone really did use it. And like I said, it was $12,500, but Mayor Adams said it was only $9 an hour for the city to pay for it. And yeah, I don't know if it'll come back. I don't know if this 7 months went through and we have decided that no, this isn't something that's going to be working out. But it is really interesting to see surveillance systems in public spaces, both from the government and not from the government. I was at a fast food chain a few months ago, and a robot brought me my food. I had to put a little placemat on my table, and then it kind of just came over and delivered it. And it had a few issues, but you could tell that it was definitely it was definitely in its infancy. It was working hard. It was making some mistakes. We have some great questions about the New York bot though in the chat. Carol says, "How heavy are they? Have any been stolen?" That was the big thing. Everyone thought that it was going to get thrown on the tracks, but I think it was very, very, very heavy. I wish I had a scale reference for this robot, but it is like probably 6 feet tall, very heavy, very wide, very Futurama robot daughter vibes. And Rick wants to know if the fast food delivery was sassy to me. No, it wasn't. It was actually pretty nice. It was kind of sweet. And yeah, no, it's, I don't know. We're going to come back to this later and we're going to see if, this is something that is just part of our life now or not. Back to more designery news. Designer News is no more. The product design discussion platform, unique for its text-based focus in a field often focused on visuals, officially shut down at the beginning of the month after its resale to We Work Remotely, which is a bummer. It was a really big site for a lot of people to talk about different product design and programming design. There are a few other ones now that are going out, but nothing has really filled the void yet. I feel like this is happening a lot in a lot of different social networks. I know we were just talking about X, but also in this, it's interesting to see what is going to be the replacement for this. As a follow-up to what we talked about last week, the FCC has now outlawed AI voice clone robocalls. The new rule gives states' attorney general the ability to take action against scammers using AI voice cloning tools in their calls. Remember those Biden robocalls? They were linked to a Texas-based company and reached 25,000 voters. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but Disney and Epic announced a partnership for what they're calling a persistent universe. Don't call it the metaverse. It's the persistent universe. What a marketing campaign. It would include Disney's intellectual properties, including not only Disney characters, but also Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars into the Fortnite universe. It was $1.5 billion, and now they have a very large majority stake in Epic. So it'll be interesting to see how Disney and Fortnite continue to interact with one another. And our last piece of news is just that Steam Next Fest is going on now until the 12th. You've got 3 days, so you got the weekend. You can play free demos, you can watch developer live streams, and you can wishlist your favorites to get notified when they release. I'm mentioning this on this stream because I'm getting really into the idea of creating a video game, but I'm also really interested in the idea of video games as an art form and the idea that now it is so much more than just Pac-Man or Mario. There are some really strong narrative, visually inspiring pieces of artwork that you can experience through video games. And I think the demographic of people who are ingesting and experiencing video games is broadening. So if you're someone who is kind of interested in looking for something to do, maybe you're looking for an art thing, there are literally hundreds of demos available until Sunday. If you go onto Steam and you download it on your computer, both available for Windows and Mac, and you can just download a bunch of really cool games of all different genres. So make sure you guys check it out. But speaking of fun things to do, I have a very fun, very cute hyperlink for our hyperlink section today. So let's hop into that. So the hyperlink for this week is called Infinite Craft, and it comes from this guy that actually makes a bunch of really fun, goofy, like web games that are constantly available. If you go to neil.fun, actually, you can see that it just has a bunch of different things that you can hop into, like the password game and rocks or sell. But this one got a little bit big recently. I found it through Installer from David Pierce on The Verge. And if you like the hyperlink section of this show, you will really like his weekly newsletter. It comes out on Saturdays or Sundays, depending on how you get it. And it just kind of highlights a bunch of really cool things around the internet and content, a little bit similar to the show, but not as creator or artistic focused as much as it is kind of just internet. But it's very simple. You'll see here that actually with the page I have already open. It has a bunch, but when you reset the page and you go to it for the first time, you see on the side you have water, fire, wind, and earth as icons, and you can drag the icons onto the screen. And they start to interact with each other as you lay the icons on top of one another. So if you take fire and you put it on top of water, it turns into steam. And then you look over at steam now, and now it's available on the side, and that can kind of continue to then be combined with other elements, ones that are already available, or even itself, to create new things. So two steams make a cloud. But then I want to say, all right, I want to use cloud and maybe wind. What does that make? Storm. And it's really fun. There are so many different weird Easter eggs. You can get things that are far beyond just elemental things. I don't know the secret codes to all of them, but you can get to planet, you can get to Vulcan, you can get to a unicorn, a steamboat. It's really fun, and it's just kind of a mindless toy that you could hop up if you just go to neil.fun/infinitecraft. There's a dash in between infinite and craft in that. And maybe you're listening to a podcast, or you're just sitting on the toilet, and you're, oh yeah, see, now you can do double rainbow if you put two, oh, no, I got double rainbow somehow. It's also the fun thing is you can like try to break out the mentality of like what would a rainbow and tornado make together, and sometimes it just goes back to whatever it was. But it's very fun, and I enjoy it heavily. I enjoy it heavily, and I think that you guys will kind of use it as a very fun little segment. That said, we have a rather controversial thoughts coming up next, so maybe you'll need to use it to power through. But let's hop on over to thoughts. So we have another segment of Spiraling with Allie, which, as you guys know, Allie Rogers is a producer on the show. And this week she's coming to us about indie music and artificial intelligence music videos. So take it away, Allie.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me back for another Spiral. Today on Spiraling with Allie, I want to dive into an AI kerfuffle ruffling feathers in the indie music world. The band we're talking about today is called Mannequin, which, because this is a family-friendly live stream, I will refer to simply as MP from here on out. This past Tuesday, February 6th, the band released their latest single, Nothing Like, and a corresponding music video. You can see the video is inspired by Disney-style princess cartoons, and it's really trippy, pretty freaky, and I think the band deserves some props for the actual visual style. The song itself is about young love and how intense it can be. And the images that they draw off of are like Disney princesses. And so what they end up creating is this super strange, trippy, creepy world of Disney princesses where everything is convoluted and contorted. And I actually think that's artistically a really interesting metaphor for how a really intense romance or love can feel. I actually think what they tried to do is cool, and it works with the lyrics and the song itself. This video is in some ways AI generated. According to the band, there was a lot of human involvement. The lead singer actually going through all the motions that the main character goes through. But there is definitely an AI element to how this video was made, and everyone's just like cool with that, and they have no strong feelings, and I have nothing more to say. Let's wrap this up. No, just kidding. It's provoked a bit of backlash, but I don't want to discuss this story in terms of good guys or bad guys. I just think we need to look at this as kind of a weather vane, an example of how much anxiety and angst there is in the air right now. So the band posted the music video on YouTube on Tuesday, and not all of it was negative, but here's some of the negative comments. This is soulless. A couple users specifically said that using AI was anti-punk. Wish they didn't use AI and instead had actual artists work on it. A lot of comments suggest that art and AI generated stuff, like those cannot intersect. There is no such thing as AI generated art. Like this last comment even used art in quotations, implying that AI generated material is something else completely. Other commenters said that AI stole the work of past artists, like this person who wrote, "It's all built off stolen artwork and hundreds of hours of labor, and it still looks terrible, LOL." Oof. That one's so mean. But some comments also imply that it stole from artists in a different way, that by using AI instead of going to an animator, an animation studio, this video took work from quote unquote real artists. Hire actual artists to make a music video, smiley face. One reason why I think this video in particular got so much backlash is it's so instantly clockable as AI. For as little time as AI generated content has been around, it is instantly recognizable. It's like its own aesthetic. It's really strange because it's a tool that's based on so many different kinds of styles, and yet it has its own recognizable style. Like, I enjoyed the music video, but I tuned out after 30 seconds because I kind of felt like I got the point. I know what this style is. I understand the themes and the imagery. I know that AI doesn't really have like the narrative capability. This also became a conversation, not just on YouTube, but on the Reddit subreddit Indie Heads, which I'm a member of as an indie head. And here's another comment. Incredibly disappointed, especially as the song is really good and didn't need a gimmick. A music video using AI intending to exploit AI's lack of humanity is still a music video using AI when they could have, commissioned original art for their work. Another thing to keep in mind is that so much has already been done in the music video world. I feel like OK Go went to space and they just ended music videos, like stunts. It's kind of funny to me that someone called this use of AI a stunt, because for a while, music videos were all stunts. It was all about achieving virality in the digital world. So it wasn't necessarily any longer about creating a short video that had a meaningful narrative that related to the lyrics. It was just a concept kind of totally divorced from the song, but that was really cool. It was cool when OK Go went to space. I personally wouldn't go to space. MP did release a statement on X. They said, for what it's worth, AI generated is a dismissive and reductive term to what the music video actually is. A real artist spent hours and hours and hours animating over an actual video of me running around and performing the song. Our creative team created a storyline and poured over the process. Often the perception of things is extremely different from the reality. Real human hands and creativity went into this. Have fun talking about us today and enjoy the engagement post. We got work to do to get ready for tour. See ya in the real world. Salty, a little salty. The director of the video, Connor Clark, posted to his Instagram. It's kind of a little harder to just read his statement because it's super just sarcastic. But I think the most important part that he says is everything's a remix, but when you use AI for that, you're stealing jobs rather than tapping into our collective experience and changing it into something new, using technology and lots of human engineering. Not surprisingly, a lot of the comments on his post are supportive. One person wrote, "There's using AI to generate an image in place of traditional art. Then there's using heavily manipulated AI and its source material to create an entirely new art form that uses AI's weak points as the main feature." Another person wrote that the video's critics are the same people that were opposing the synthesizer or electric guitar. Another person wrote, "I don't even respond to these types of people anymore. I just call them Luddites or mention how they're going to be poor in the future due to their failure to adapt." That last comment, it's so mean. It makes me laugh, but it also taps into exactly the insecurities and the fears that MP's music video has unintentionally unleashed. Yes, a lot of artists are scared of AI. They're scared that it's going to steal from their livelihoods, not just in the future, but it's already happened. We can't forget that many visual artists have already seen their work used to train AI platforms without their consent. Just recently on the stream, we talked about a tool released for visual artists called Nightshade that they could use to help to incorrectly train AI platforms. But I also want to take a step back and talk about music videos. In my life, outside of the stream, yes, I don't just live within this beautiful box that Ryan made for me. I'm a video producer, and I have worked on music videos before. Sadly, like a lot of other areas of film, the budgets for music videos, especially the middle budgets, have really been shrinking. So there's artists that are huge that kind of have these really, really big budgets to do amazing music videos. And then there's everything else, and the budgets tend to be super low. And music videos, they're just a really hard art form. I love them, But you're talking about making an exciting piece of work in 3 to 5, 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you're doing some kind of short film music video combo. I met a producer last year, really successful, great producer, who said he'll only do one music video a year because even if you're getting paid well, the amount of work you do to make it good, it's just exhausting and it just doesn't pay the bills. You can't sustain yourself off of it. And I'm not surprised that a band would use their budget to make something new and interesting by using a new technology instead of trying to shoot something in real life or instead of going the animation route. Don't get mad at me, animators. I love you and I love animated music videos. But what I'm trying to say is that if you're a band and you're trying to cut through the noise, I'm not surprised that you would use AI and also try to use it in a new and interesting way. I wouldn't be surprised if anti-corporate, individual, indie, DIY artists start using certain AI tools more and more purely out of budgetary reasons. I was listening to a podcast called Back to One. It's from Filmmaker Magazine, and the guest was indie filmmaker and actor Mark Duplass. He was asked about the use of AI in filmmaking, and his response was not necessarily the negative shutdown response you would expect. He actually brought up how it could be used as a tool positively, how an indie feature where you might need a lot of background actors to achieve a certain scene, maybe in the world coming pretty soon where background actors could be AI generated. And he was optimistic about it. He said, background actors, they're kind of treated as props. And maybe for some filmmakers, this could be an interesting solution, a budget-friendly solution. Now, this isn't him speaking, but me speaking. If you save a bunch of money on background actors, potentially you get a whole other day of filming with your principal cast. It's an interesting idea, but don't throw tomatoes at me or get mad. I also love background actors and don't think they should be completely relegated to the past. DI artists of all types will use AI tools in the future. I would say to the band's fans that I don't think it's necessarily anti-punk to use an AI tool to make a music video. I think it's always going to be context dependent. If you're an artist and you're using AI, especially if you're one with a bigger platform, you need to be ready for backlash and criticism and questions and maybe be generous with that because people are scared. It's new and it's strange and let's just all take a breath. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you're scared of AI or if you're psyched. And I'll see you next week for thoughts. Maybe we'll think about something less big because my brain hurts. So let's think about something dumb next week, guys. Sound off in the chat what we should talk about.
Thank you, Allie. She was so excited to say sound off in the chat. So make sure you guys sound off in the chat. I'm also not seeing many pitchforks or calls for Allie's head in the chat. So thank you for being brave and talking to this subject. Obviously, as Allie said, it's a very sensitive topic. We're all kind of nervous and excited about it. So I appreciate, especially as your perspective as a video producer and also implementing the idea of being I'm also kind of in charge of budget as well. What can I do to make sure my artistic vision gets met? I think that's also really interesting to see. I see that Bruce Gonzalez in the Behance chat said, I think they need to join Firefly prompt jockey, which is great. Melissa's mentioning that she misses the claymation videos of Peter Gabriel. Also, welcome to the stream, Patty Bronson. I'm glad that you discovered the show. If you have any thoughts or comments as we work through the news and different segments, we'd love to hear from you. This is a two-way conversation since this is a live stream. Later as a podcast if you want to catch up on other videos. But make sure you check those out and continue to be a part of the conversation. Oh, God, I can't believe I said that. Wade also says, if the song pushed a conversation about AI in the song, which maybe it could be interpreted as such, I might be more interested. And Robert says, the ones who protest the loudest are those who have no talent. Fire, fighting in words. Rick says, now I'm spiraling. And Allison says, spiraling And yeah, so this was Spiraling with Allie. Thank you so much to Allie for having these. I'd love to continue to hear your thoughts. We do have a email that's set up, and it's thefilenewsshow@gmail.com. I'd love to incorporate them into next week's show if you have some thoughts that you really want to get out. But we only have about 20 minutes left, so I want to make sure we hop into our next segment, which is one we do every single week as well, and it's called Font of the Week. We actually have another video introduction here, and this week we have the Venice Boulevard typeface, and I had actually recently just talked to the ladies that created this typeface, so I reached out to them and said, hey, I'd really like to feature this typeface in particular because I think it's very cute and fun, and it's my style. Would you mind talking to it? And they were kind enough to send over a video, so let's call her in.
Hey Ryan, greetings from Southern California. Jen Hood here. I've heard that you are interested in hearing the origin story of Venice Boulevard, our typeface. Well, it was a piece of lettering that was part of a brand identity proposal that we sent to a client. It was for like this kid's brand, but they didn't want it. How dare they? So instead of killing our darlings, as they say, we revived it into a full-blown typeface. We would not let it die. And so that's what became Venice Boulevard. And the vibe was very much, if you've ever been to Venice Beach, then you've seen all these little souvenir stands. You can get, corn dogs, waffle cones, like ice cream, but also it's like you can get airbrushed t-shirts, hemp necklaces, toe rings. It's like full-blown 1995 down there. But all of the lettering on the awnings or on the little sandwich board signs in the front of these little shops, it's always like a sans serif, very legible, very bold, but tons of personality. And that's what we were going for. Something fun, very unpretentious, of the people, that felt kind of like cheap and quirky, but in a good way, So that's the story of Venice Boulevard. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you so much for taking the time to film that and walk us through it. She is from Chutzpah Design, which I believe she does with her sister, and they are really cool type foundry designers. They don't only create typefaces, they also create full branding, as she was saying there about it being a kid's brand that was originally as part of a package. They had a really good episode on Adobe Live a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I was on the back end, so I got to watch the whole thing. But I definitely recommend you checking them out. This typeface not only has lots of different weights, but this typeface also has lots of different iconography and their glyphs. So make sure that when you pop this family into your Photoshop or Illustrator, you also navigate to the glyphs window to make sure that you can get the cool palm trees and suns and eyes that are also included and can add a bunch of whimsical to your piece. But thank you again to Jen, and make sure you guys check it on out. Speaking of things to check out, there are some shows to see. So, Hyperallergic has posted their monthly rundown of great shows to see in New York. And I'm going to go here and share my screen with the actual article. Thank you to Aki Sasamoto, Sherry Boyle, Apollorina Broche. Those are the ones that are all being shown. Thank you to Hrag Vartanian, Hakeem Bashara, and Axmina for curating this list together. The list includes Milton Resnick, Matthew Wong, Kurt Leitner, Apolloniro Broche, Sherry Boyle, who we talked about 2 weeks ago, Tammy Rubin, Bing Lee, Ken Chu, and Aki Sasamoto. And if you go to Hyperallergic, you can find this article is posted on February 5th. And it just walks through all the different art that is showing in New York. Personally, of them all, I mean, I already saw this show with the Sherry Boyle. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. I definitely recommend you go see it. But the one that I am most excited about, actually, is this last one. And I have only seen this picture and what they've written about it, but the article says that there is a playful assortment of magic erasers, snail shells, water bottle caps, kitchen cutting boards, and other objects performing a dance over industrial sinks. And then they also continue to go on to say that the exhibition and an accompanying series of performances by the artist will put a smile on your face, but don't be surprised if a contemplative mood slowly sets in, making you wish a magic eraser existed for past mistakes and poor choices, which I always love the idea of being happy and sad at the same time. It is such a great feeling when I'm experiencing art, when I'm just, playing video games on the weekend. I don't want to necessarily be sad. But when I want to feel something and interact with a piece, having that dichotomy of the two things together is always something that I really feel like I pull a lot out of. So I really want to see that. That's at the Queens Museum. The shows that are mentioned are all over the place. They're included in Brooklyn. They're included in Manhattan. So make sure you guys go check them out. Once again, it's Hyperallergic, and that is Ticketbooth. Let's go and hop on into some resources, though, for you guys, so that you guys can have some great things to work with throughout the work week next week. We got some real cool stuff for resources this week. First one being Rive, which is a new... I guess new. I think it's been out for like 2 years, like in beta or something. But Rive is this new motion graphics program that does things that it's not a competitor to After Effects or XD. From what I understand, it is a interactive animation programming that kind of more so counteracts against Lottie files, which we've talked a lot about actually in the past as well. Not on this show, but on my other shows. And Rive, if you just go to rive.app, you can see some of the cool stuff that they are creating. And it's all stuff that lives straight in browser. And it's not Java. It's not Flash. It's just these beautiful interactive graphics that you can see as I hover over. It's moving the car, but it's actually doing it within the parameters of whatever Rive is doing. And they say that you can do it with games, you can do it with websites, you can make interactive graphics. You can see here that they're using animated UI components straight within a website to maybe add a cool animation to a rating system, or maybe just some UI elements to make things feel more tactile when you're interacting with them. I am very interested to see this implemented in more places. I'm also interested to see how it works on mobile. They have it in apps. They also mention iOS and Android on there as well as like Unity and Unreal. So you have the whole gambit of websites to apps to video games, which is a lot of times a big juggle between which one you're going to be working on the most. Also, hello to Annika in the chat. Also, hello to Jan. Thank you guys for being here. We are just right now going over some resources that we have for people for the week. And this is the Rive app, which is interactive animations that all run. And it's kind of like a Lottie file, but they're actually apparently smaller than Lottie files. So I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. I downloaded it, but I have not played with it yet. They have both a web-based system and they also have a actual program. So I don't know if they're interchangeable or if one is a light version of another. But if anyone here tries anything out, I would love to see what you guys work on. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. It's always exciting to find new tools for your work. Speaking of which, sometimes the tools are not always the ones that are to create it, but they're kind of to protect you as well. And this next one up is actually a two-piecer here. We have When Designs Look Alike, and this is from the logo inspiration channel on logo motivations channel on Instagram. And basically what they have here is they have brought together a selection of several different logos that have counterparts that look very similar to what is actually like widely known. So here on the left we have Carhartt, made in 1973 for an in-house design. And then you have one that is Carlo Saventi, which was in 1970, only 3 years before, and looks very similar. There are other ones as well, like OMV and CTV Network. This Fila and Ferrero are two very interesting ones. In this case, Fila was actually first in 1973, and Ferrero was in 1975. But I feel like I see the Fila one more than I see the Ferrero one. And we also have Airbnb, which has a new logo back in 2014, when you guys remember that. And then before then, we have the 1975 Azuma Drive-In, which it's the same logo. Then we have Uber and Carl Christensen, and then we have Medium and Metrocraft. Helly Hansen, and this other one is that I don't know. But basically, the solution to this, or at least one caveat that can help it so you don't accidentally run into this situation, was a service that I found out through James Barnard. I mention him all the time, I know. But he actually made a cool video about the WIPO, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization. And they have an online service where you can go and you can upload a logo and it will compare it with artificial intelligence. You can see here, I just made something random here on the left. It has like a black circle with some lines next to it. And I just uploaded it and I said, show me anything that is remotely similar. So you upload it and I sped it up for this, but it actually takes a few seconds. And then you'll have just all of these things that are kind of remotely similar and they're all registered. So you can see if there's something that is close to your logo and you don't accidentally plagiarize something. So thank you again to Logo Motivations for a really great introspective of kind of logos that look similar to each other. Make sure you guys check them out. They're just Logo Motivations on Instagram. And then also, once again, that is the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. And if you go onto their site, you will see that they have a great resource for it. As another great resource, Musely, which is a great Chrome extension that I use all the time, made a list of 30 great free fonts that is available to anyone that wants to check them out. It's just on their blog. And there are a bunch of really cool ones here. There's obviously ones that I prefer over other ones. Look at these cookie settings, guys. Reject all. But they... Obviously, you have your Adobe Typekit ones, but sometimes you want even free ones outside of that. And it's a great selection of different typefaces. A few of my favorites is this one, Loca Nova, which has a rounded one, and you guys know I like a soft font. Another one that I really enjoy is down here. It is Stara, which is a sans serif font that feels very futuristic. Kind of feels like you could see it on a spaceship. And then there's another serif down here that I also really enjoy called Roman Celia, and that is a romantic display condensed font, and it just feels very elegant and very industrial to me. But it's a list of 30 of them. They all have links to it. You can click in and get to them. If you guys end up using any of them, please let me know. Saying, can we have this link? And I will throw it in the chat for you real quick. I'll also put everything in the show notes for people to check out if you guys want to go and check out any of these after the fact, or if you're listening to it as a podcast, which, once again, you can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple News, or Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. There is also an option to check out the File News Show. This one is something that came up on Lifehacker that is a really great tip that I personally even use, and just for you guys to use as artists, and there's lots of different services out there. Lifehacker said the best time to cancel an app subscription is immediately. And I actually do this all the time, especially when you're on iOS. You can sign up for a subscription and you'll get the month out of it, and then you'll go back to the App Store and then you just cancel the subscription. You will still have access to that for the rest of the month. And then at the end of the month, it will cut off. But then it makes it so you don't forget about it and you don't end up having 1,000 subscriptions. We were talking a little bit about the Mozilla service at the very top of the show, and I actually already did that, so I still have another month of coverage for it. But then I don't have to worry about it being billed again because I already canceled it. And then our last resource for today is Creative Pep Talk by Andy J. Pizza. And it is inspiring stories and actionable strategies for building a thriving creative practice. It's a podcast I just found. They have 440 episodes, so I have just touched the surface. And basically, this week's episode is with Todd Henry, and it's called For When You're Stuck in the Old Thing and the New Things Are Scary. And it's just really inspiring. I listened to it while I was working the other day, and I loved it. I recommend it. I'm looking forward to listening to other episodes. And I would love to know if you guys have any creative podcasts that you guys listen to and that you're interested or you would recommend, because I'm always looking for new podcasts, as you guys know. We only have a few minutes left, always running out of time. So let's quickly hop into Rebrand. Where did he go? The New York Botanic Garden is a industry in New York City, something to be reckoned with. And they recently just did a rebrand after 10 years. It comes from the company of Wolf Olins, and I think that is really successful. It's something that is very wavy. It is a sans serif that I'm sorry, it's a serif that has like a wavy counterpart to it, so they're not jutting out. It has its own typeface. It has these really interesting colors that are kind of ugly, but they work well together to make me think that it's nature, which is really interesting. Katie Cohen from Creative Boom did a great write-up on it, which is what we're looking at right now. And it's just yeah, this strange color palette is really what gets me. I think it's an interesting approach. It still feels elegant, but especially in here, like Garden Sprouts, it feels like it could be made on like a letterpress or something. And it could be something that is easily flexible. They also have a photography language as well. And they have just really great experiments, and it just feels like a very flexible redesign. So once again, that's on Creative Boom, and it is for the New York Botanical Gardens. They have now labeled themselves as NYBG, which is kind of reminiscent also of NYC, which is fun, and definitely recommend checking it out. We only got a few minutes, so let's do Spotlight. I promised that we would talk a little bit about Valentine's Day because it is coming up. Remember to make plans for your significant other or for yourself if you need to check it out. But a dear friend of mine creates these really funny comics, and one of the segments that he makes of comics are all of these very fun candy hearts. If you guys have followed me for a while, you know that I talked about him all the time, Tommy Siegel. And you can actually go to Candy Hearts Comics on Instagram. You can see that there's like 2 candy hearts on a rug. Looks like Aladdin, and it says, "I can show you the world." And the other one says, "Letting him think I haven't already seen the world." And they're just goofy. They're fun. They poke at the idea of romance and the idea of like just dealing with the implications and the pressures of being in a relationship. Or, you know, they even have one down here right behind my head that says, "We want you to succeed." And the other one says, "Because we love you so much." And then there's a child heart that says, "Gifted child with debilitating anxiety disorder." And so they're funny and they're goofy, and you know they're great to send to a friend. He actually even has a book already out. I think he has another one coming out, I believe. I might be making that up. Who knows? But make sure you check him out. He's Tommy Siegel, and he also has an own Instagram for it, which is Candy Hearts Comics. Just a few more spotlights for you guys before we say goodbye until next week. And once again, we will be back on our normal time next week at 4 o'clock. It was 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Western, but this was just a special time. One other one that I want to do is a Suck Up Game, and it is a game that I want to talk about just because it is one of the first instances of AI in a video game that I found well executed. It actually implements using it to talk to neighbors. You are a vampire and you have to go from house to house and put on costumes, and then you use your microphone to talk into it and try to convince people to invite you in because you're a vampire. And the large language model works really well. It responds, and you have to also speak to their interests and what they like, which is really fun. This is a fun playthrough of a guy that I actually really like on Instagram. His name's on YouTube. His name's Madmorph, and you can buy the game for $11. You can also watch it, and it's a really good time. And I think it's a fun way to experience the new age of new video games without it feeling too gimmicky or unwarranted. And then one last thing that we have barely any time for is that the Goodreads or Good Moves company website went and they created a best of January. So make sure you guys check them out. You can go to their Instagram for Good Moves TV. It breaks down really good inspiration for motion graphics. And I definitely recommend checking it out just as a means to be inspired. I'm going to let it roll through one more time, and then we're going to hop off. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to Ali Rodgers again for your wonderful segment. Thank you to Chutzpah Girls for including a really nice write-up about their font. And I'm excited to see you guys all next week. Remember, you can listen to this as a podcast, and then also you can also write in to thefilenewsshow@gmail.com. My name is Ryan Selvey, RyanSelvy. Find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. And I will see you guys all next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.